Welcome to our module on record keeping.
This module was authored by Christine Moncada, Harriet B. Haar, Jim Riddle, Constance Carlson, and Craig Schaefer from the University of Minnesota in 2017 and updated in 2026. Narrated by Constance Carlson, with additional narration generated using the AI voice of Hannah from ElevenLabs.
In this module, we will discuss record keeping for organic crop producers. Records are an important part of following NOP rules. However, good record keeping is valuable regardless of what kind of farming you do. Complete and organized records can help with applying for government programs, supplying figures to lenders when applying for loans, or providing facts when applying for insurance or making claims. It is also important in making production decisions. What things have worked in the past and why? Having a historical reference of your activities and the efficacy of your activities and inputs is invaluable when making production decisions. This can help prevent you from repeating mistakes. Records are not just for organic certification. They also help your economic bottom line. If you are a farmer, you are already familiar with many elements of record keeping, such as saving receipts or documenting your yields. Let's discuss some of the details specific to organic record keeping.
The other topics we will cover are what to record, forms and field maps, tracking and lot numbers, as well as some other tips.
The formal definition of records under the National Organic Program is any information in written, visual, or electronic form that documents the activities undertaken by a producer, handler, or certifying agent to comply with the Act and regulations. In the rest of this section, we will describe records that organic farmers keep, some of which may be new to you. Organic record keeping should start during your transition, 36 months prior to when you want to get certified.
On this slide, we show 4 years of a monthly calendar. August of year 0, the prior year, is shown as the start. The run continues straight through until the end of 36 months in the July of year 3.
This indicates that you have been following proper methods and have been only using approved inputs during transition. The record-keeping guidelines we will summarize in this module will continue to apply after you are certified. Record-keeping in organic helps create an audit trail. The system is designed so that products can be traced back to the farm or farms from where they came, and the methods and inputs used to produce them.
This means from field to bin, to transport to sale, and eventually to the consumer.
In your organic record keeping, you will need to document all activities that occur over time in a given field. This includes field operations and inputs and the date the activity occurred. Most farms have more than one field, so to keep track of what is happening on each field, you will need to assign a unique field number to each field and note its acreage. Examples of field operations are tillage, planting, fertilizing, other amendment application, weed control operations, irrigation, pesticide application, harvesting, and any other operation that occurs on your field.
Harvesting includes tracking yields obtained.
Along with field operations, your record keeping will log the inputs and usually the amount of each input you use on every field. Seed type and source, for example, must be documented. This includes anything applied to the seeds such as coatings, seed treatments, or inoculants. You must record all foliar or soil-applied products and the adjuvants or surfactants used as tank additives with products such as these. All fertilizers, whether produced on farm or purchased, must be noted.
This would include manure, compost, or other fertilizer types, as well as micronutrients.
If you use an organically approved pesticide, it must also be recorded. Please remember that all inputs must be approved for organic production, whether in transition or certified. Let's go over the details you need to record using manure application as an example. For what, you would need to record what type of manure and the source, on-farm or purchased. And you would need to retain pertinent documents such as manure analysis reports. Who performed the work? You, or was it custom work? When was the operation performed? To which field was it applied? Why is the manure being used? It may seem obvious that the manure is being used to supply nutrients for a crop, but there are some amendments, such as micronutrients, that must be justified with a soil test that documents a mineral deficiency. How was the manure applied as far as the rate and equipment used? All these details might sound complicated to keep track of for all fields you have and all the operations you perform, but with the right organization, you can make record keeping less burdensome. In this section, we will cover examples of the forms you can use. Here are some examples of forms you might use.
These include field history and production sheets, activity logs, input records, harvest and storage records, and equipment cleaning logs.
We'll go through just a few of these to give you an overview. Remember, however, there is no one way to keep records, and different certifiers may have different forms. Contact your certifier if you have one, and they can supply you their recommended forms. Not all of these records are necessarily submitted to the certifier, but they need to be available for the inspector to examine, so it is good to keep them organized. Additionally, these records will be a great aid in filling out your organic system plan. Field history logs summarize what has occurred on that field. You can create a spreadsheet or print out forms from your certifier. All field activities for all fields will need to be documented. History of field activities must be available for the 3 years preceding your request for organic certification. In this example, field, crop, yield, harvest, and storage is listed.
The log example we show here lists data for 3 fields. Field 1 was 40 acres of an oat crop, owned rather than rented. The yield was 45 bushels per acre. The harvest date was July 18, 2025, and it was not stored on farm. Field 2 was 80 acres of corn, owned rather than rented. The yield was 100 bushels per acre. The harvest date was October 10, 2025, and the corn was stored in bin 3. Field 3 was 80 acres of soybean on land that was rented. The yield was 45 bushels per acre. The harvest date was September 30, 2025, and the soybeans were stored in bin 2.
An activity or input log is another example of an organic production record. This log is where you would note details on activities such as those involving fertilizing, weed control operations, pesticide application, or irrigation.
The log example we show lists 3 dates and the activities performed. On April 9, 2025, compost fertilizer produced on farm was applied at 2 tons per acre to field 1. Also, on April 9, 2025, manure fertilizer produced on farm was applied at 2 tons per acre to field 2. On June 6, 2025, field 3 was cultivated.
These are additional items to record that will become important after transition, including your storage, transportation, and sale of your organic crop. The organic integrity of your crop must be protected from mingling with non-organic crops or contact with prohibited substances such as non-approved pest control materials.
These records help track your products as they enter the organic marketplace.
We have shown you a few examples of forms you might use for your operation. The logs, sheets, and forms, or whatever they may be called, will vary. The important thing to remember is that the way you save information is not as important as what information you save, as long as you can indicate to your certifier and inspector what activities and inputs occurred. You can find templates of forms and logs at many sites. Certifiers will often have their preferred forms on their websites, so check those out too, especially if you know which certifier you will be eventually working with. You may choose to use forms that already exist to log your information, but you can always develop your own. One last document we will cover is the field map. A field map accurately represents your entire farm. Field maps are not required by NOP rules, but almost all certifiers require them. They indicate the location, orientation, and acreage of each of your fields. They will also show all geographical features such as farmstead, barns, sheds, roads, ditches, streams, ponds, buffers, natural areas, and what is in areas adjacent to the farm, such as a conventional farm. Field maps also include conventional fields in split operations.
In this hand-drawn map, we show the locations of the farm site, 4 different fields with their acreage and crops grown, the border strips, a natural stream border, and the neighboring conventional field.
Here is another example of a field map using a satellite image instead of a drawing. You can get satellite maps of your farm from the NRCS personnel at your local office and outline the landscape features for your operation.
Here we show a satellite image over which the farm details have been outlined and labeled with features like field numbers, buffers, roads, and buildings.
We mentioned earlier that record keeping helps create an audit trail so that products can be traced back from point of sale to their field of origin. An important factor for tracking begins at the farm level with the use of lot numbers. Lot numbers are first created on farm as part of an audit trail to track your product from the field to consumer. You will need to apply unique lot numbers to the crops or products from each field before you harvest. Lot numbers will be used in your logs and other forms that record activities such as storage post-harvest. A lot number is just a code used to trace your crop back to the field where it was grown and when it was grown. Because of your organic record keeping, your lot number ultimately indicates all the production practices that occurred on that field or to that crop. Lot numbers are assigned before the grain leaves the field. Fruit and vegetable growers also need lot numbers. You can create them however you like, but it makes most sense to incorporate important information such as crop, field, bin, year, and farm name.
They should be specific, consistent, and easy to decipher.
Here is an example of where the lot number includes the name of the farm, the year, the crop, the field, and the bin. A good tip is to be consistent once you have a system down that works for you. Having an easy-to-decipher lot number can cut down on confusion later.
In this example, the farm name is FM, the year is 2025, the crop is soybean represented by S, the field is 7, and the bin is 1. The resulting lot number is FM25S71.
When you combine crops from different fields in storage, a new lot number needs to be assigned. Your records will show which old lot numbers are combined to form the new lot. Of course, record keeping doesn't end after you sell your crop or product. The lot number from your farm will travel with the product as it progresses to the consumer. The actual number may be reassigned along the line, but will still be traceable back to your farm and field. In addition to keeping records, you should also keep the paperwork you collect relating to your organic production. This includes seed labels, labels from inputs, soil and tissue test results, invoices, and receipts. Communications such as letters or emails from your certifier should be saved. They can provide a good reference in case misunderstandings arise. Just like with your records, these items should be kept for 5 years. There are online programs and software available to farmers to help with record keeping. Special computer programs are not mandatory, however. A spiral notebook kept in your pickup truck, a calendar with a pen hanging by the door, or even a smartphone are all acceptable methods to maintain records.
In this image, we show an example of the display of an organic record-keeping software called COG Pro.
If using your computer to store your records electronically, back up your data. For paper records, make sure to keep them in a safe and accessible place. There are different ways to keep records. Choose what you are comfortable with. It is best to keep up with logging your data as you go. Otherwise, backtracking can become overwhelming and prone to information loss. Above all, keep everything documented in an organized and accessible manner. And as always, your certifier is the best resource if you have questions. Thanks for watching our record-keeping module. We hope what you've learned will provide a good basis to start your own organic record-keeping program.
This project is supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, Organic Transitions Program under Award Number 2013-5, 1106-2-1005. This project is supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Marketing Service, National Organic Program under the Transition to Organic Partnership Program, TOPP, in the Midwest region. Any opinions, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this publication are those of the authors and should not be construed to represent any official USDA or U.S. government determination or policy. The University of Minnesota shall provide equal access to and opportunity in its programs, facilities, and employment without regard to race, color, creed, religion, national origin, gender, age, marital status, familial status, disability, public assistance status, membership or activity in a local commission created for the purpose of dealing with discrimination, veteran status, sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. For more information about this project, please see organicag.umn.edu, copyright 2026, Regents of the University of Minnesota. All rights reserved.